Dear students, now I'll going to explain one of the important part of your inorganic chemistry syllabus of third semester in the session 17. Here we are going to discuss about majorly paints, okay, and the constituents and their function, manufacture of white lead by Chambers process and electrolytic process. In our previous session, we have discussed about the raw materials for cement, manufacture of cement by dry process, mechanism of setting, role of water and gypsum in setting process. And the learning objectives of the present session is to know the meaning of paints, to learn the constituents of paint and their functions, and to understand the manufacture of white lead by Chambers process and electrolytic process. And the outcome of this session is to one can know the meaning of paints and the constituents of paints and their functions, and students can understand the manufacture of white lead by Chambers process and electrolytic process. White lead is an important pigment used in the manufacture of cement. You must know this. And prerequisites for this session is coloring agents, lead carbonate, electrolytes and electrolytic process. What is paint? Dear students, we all know it is an important substance that is used in many of the day-to-day uses like decoration, protection of surfaces and so on. So paint is a liquid solution of pigment or coloring material and a solvent which is applied on different surfaces for decorative or protective reasons. Paint is a dispersion of a pigment actually in a suitable drying oil in the presence of a solvent called thinner is called as paint. What are the qualities of paint? The main qualities of paint are it must have a high hiding power and it must maintain its color and it can protect the underlying surface and it can be easily applied on the surface and it must be cost effective. And main components of the paint, there are 5 main components of the paint. Among them, the first component is called as a vehicle. It is actually an oil which is dried on exposure to air. The most commonly used vehicle or drying oils are linseed oil or dehydrated castor oil or bleached oil or fish oil. And the second component among the 5 components is a base. It is actually a solid substance that forms the body of the paint. It consists of a very fine powder of a suitable material such as lead, red lead, iron oxide, titanium oxide, and so on. And the next component is the pigment. It is a main component of the paint. It is coloring material added to the above components, that is base and vehicle, in order to impart a desired shade of color. For example, white lead, chrome yellow, red lead, etc. are used to get different colors of the paint. And the fourth component is a thinner or a solvent. They are also called as paint thinners, which reduces the viscosity of the paints to a great extent. For example, petroleum, spirits, turpentine, coal tar hydrocarbons are some of the commonly used solvents in the paint thinner. And the last component is extender. They are also called as fillers, and commonly used extenders are chalk, gypsum, barite, silica, and magnesium silicate. So these are 5 important components, that is vehicle, base, pigment, solvents, and extenders. And one of the very important raw materials, that is a pigment called as white lead, that is used in the manufacture of paint. It is actually contains carbonate and hydroxide ions of lead. So it is also called as a basic lead carbonate means it contains lead carbonate and lead hydroxide. Okay, so it contains both carbonate and hydroxide ions. It is a pigment or coloring material which is added to the vehicle and base in order to get a desired shade of color. White lead is added in a finely powdered state while manufacturing of paint. So how to manufacture white lead? Because majorly in all type of paints white lead is used, okay, as one of the major component. It can be manufactured in two main methods. One is called as Chambers process and the other one is called as electrolytic process. Now let us have a look at how to manufacture white lead by Chambers process. In the Chambers process, lead is actually the lead plate or lead material is hung inside the heated box or a chamber into which the fumes of acetic acid and carbon dioxide are introduced. So now what happens? There will be a reaction between lead, acetic acid and carbon dioxide in the following manner. So lead reacts with the oxygen to form lead hydroxide, and lead hydroxide reacts with acetic acid fumes to form lead acetate, and the lead acetate reacts with the above lead hydroxide to form a compound including lead hydroxide and lead acetate. So in presence of carbon dioxide, the above compound, that is PbCl3COO twice, that is lead acetate, lead hydroxide, reacts with carbon dioxide to form the white lead, that is PbCO3 PbOH twice. So these are the reactions which you have to remember for the manufacture of white lead by chamber process. And second process, which is also a very important method for the manufacture of white lead, is called as electrolytic process. Here what happens is we are carrying out the electrolysis, that is to bring about a reaction uh, in the electrolysis process. In this process actually reaction is carried out by means of a concrete electrolytic diaphragm cell which is divided into cathode and anode compartments by means of a porous diaphragm which allows only certain ions or certain components to pass through it. In the electrolytic process, the cathode material is iron and the anode material is lead, and in the anode compartment the electrolyte taken is sodium acetate, and in the cathode compartment the electrolyte taken is sodium carbonate solutions. Now what we have to do is we have to pass an electricity. Then what happens? The lead anode dissolves as lead acetate because in the anode compartment we have sodium acetate. It reacts with the lead and it dissolves in the form of lead acetate and precipitates as lead carbonate upon reacting with OH minus and CO3 ions migrating from cathode compartment, because in the cathode compartment we have sodium carbonate. So therefore what happens, because of the reaction between the lead acetate and sodium carbonate, you will going to get the white lead, that is PbCO3 PbOH twice in the following reaction. So this is how you can prepare the white lead by Chambers process and electrolytic process. So hope you understood these two methods and the main components of paint in this session. So the session summary is the definition of paint. It is a liquid solution of pigment and solvent which is applied on different surfaces for decorative and protective purposes. And white lead is basic lead carbonate. It is a complex salt containing both carbonate and hydroxide ions. And white lead can be manufactured by chambers process and electrolytic process. Now let us look at few multiple choice questions. The first question is, a vehicle used in the paint is dash. Options are solid, liquid, gas, semi-solid, and the correct answer is liquid because it can be dried on the exposure to air. Okay, so therefore the correct answer is liquid. And second question is, white lead is dash, and the options are lead nitrate, lead oxide, basic lead carbonate, and lead acetate. The correct answer is basic lead carbonate. It is a complex salt containing both carbonate and hydroxide ions. It is a deep white pigment used in the manufacture of paints. And third question is, in the chamber process, white lead is manufactured by reaction of lead with dash. Options are hydrochloric acid and carbon dioxide, nitric acid and carbon dioxide, acetic acid and carbon dioxide, sulfuric acid and carbon dioxide, and the option is C, that is acetic acid and carbon dioxide. At a very hot condition, the formed basic lead acetate reacts with carbon dioxide to form basic lead carbonate, which is called as white lead. And the fourth question is, in the electrolytic process of manufacture of white lead, lead anode dissolves as, options are lead sulfate, lead hydroxide, lead oxide, lead acetate, and the correct answer is D, that is lead acetate. It is because of the reaction of acetate which is present in the anodic compartment, which contains sodium acetate. Lead anode dissolves by reacting with sodium acetate in the form of lead acetate, and it precipitates as lead carbonate upon reacting with OH- and CO3, which are migrated from the cathodic compartment. And these are some of the references for this session. Principle of Inorganic Chemistry by Puri Sharma Kalia, Advanced Inorganic Chemistry by Gurdeep Raj and Chatwal and Anand, Modern Inorganic Chemistry by R.D. Madan, Advanced Inorganic Chemistry by Satya Prakash, and Hui Keeter Inorganic Chemistry, and Cotton and Wilkinson, that is also for Advanced Inorganic Chemistry. You can go through these textbooks for a detailed study. Thank you very much for watching this video. We shall meet in the next lecture session. Thank you very much.